Today is Thursday, August 24th. We'll tell you about some of the key moments from the first GOP presidential debate last night and the takeaways from the counter-programming former President Trump put on. And speaking of Trump, today's the day he turns himself in Georgia. Plus, India's first-of-its-kind moon landing that the U.S. will try to do next. What Hollywood studios are now offering writers who are on strike. And YouTube may want to help you find that song you've been humming, even if you don't know what it's called. Those stories and even more news to know coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. 8 Republican presidential candidates got together in the same room to make their case to the American voters and at times argue passionately with one another. It was the first debate of this presidential election season. As expected, the most contentious moments came when the discussion turned to what moderator Bret Baier called the elephant not in the room. Of course, he was talking about former President Trump, who is polling way ahead of everyone else right now. The 8 Republicans were asked whether they would support Trump as the party's nominee, even if he was convicted of a crime. 6 of them eventually said yes. But former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie said no. And when Christie explained that Trump's alleged behavior could not be overlooked, the crowd booed. On the other side, businessman Vivek Ramaswamy called Trump the best president of the 21st century and presented himself as the next generation's Trump, since he's also not a politician. Though he probably took the most hits from the other candidates throughout the night, mainly because of his lack of experience. And he was alone in saying, quote, climate change is a hoax. Another note about Ramaswamy, he was the only candidate who strongly supported ending aid for Ukraine. The Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, did say he would redirect some of the money from Ukraine to the U.S.-Mexico border, where he would send troops and use lethal force to counter drug cartels. Senator Tim Scott also called the border the most pressing national security need, and he laid out a spending plan to complete Trump's border wall. There were other issues, though, that united the GOP candidates. They made it clear they're all against abortions. They all want to rein in government spending. They all think President Biden is leading the country in the wrong direction. And most said former Vice President Mike Pence did the right thing on January 6th by certifying President Biden's 2020 election win. As for former President Trump, he sat down for a pre-recorded online interview with former Fox News anchor Tucker Carlson instead of joining the debate. And in that interview, Trump criticized Pence for refusing to challenge the results of the election. And he spoke about the Capitol riot, saying, quote, I have never seen such spirit and such passion and such love. Trump also criticized Biden, saying the president is, quote, worse mentally than he is physically, and physically, he's not exactly a triathlete. President Biden is swinging back at Trump as well. Minutes before the GOP debate started, a Biden campaign ad came on Fox News featuring an image of a tired-looking Trump. Also, Biden's re-election campaign bought a large number of ads on the Fox News website ahead of the event. Of course, a lot could still change in the more than 14 months before the 2024 election, but for now at least, it's looking a lot like a Biden-Trump rematch is most likely. Today, former President Trump is turning himself into the authorities in Georgia. As he put it, quote, I will proudly be arrested. Remember, this is the case that accuses the former president and 18 of his allies of trying to flip Georgia's 2020 election results. Trump alone is now being charged with 13 felonies that basically say he pushed false claims of voter fraud and pressured Republican officials to ignore the will of the voters to keep him in power. The indictment also outlines a scheme to tamper with voting machines in one Georgia county and steal data. Many of Trump's co-defendants have already surrendered, posted bond, and been let go for now. For example, some of his former lawyers like Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Jenna Ellis, and Sidney Powell. When Trump gets to the jail in Georgia today, the facility will be on lockdown. He's expected to have his fingerprints taken as well as the first ever mugshot of a former president. Then he'll have to pay a $200,000 bond before heading back to his golf club in New Jersey. Trump does not have a formal speech planned yet, but he's already said many times that he did nothing wrong in the aftermath or lead up to the 2020 election. And he says all the cases against him are politically motivated. His supporters have been standing by him too. With every indictment and booking comes more campaign donations. There's also a pro-Trump rally planned for today outside the Georgia jail. Remember the Russian mercenary leader who led a short armed rebellion against the Russian government earlier this year? Well, he's now believed to have been killed in a plane crash. We're talking about Yevgeny Prigozhin, who leads the Wagner Group mercenary fighters. He was listed as a passenger on a private jet that was flying from Moscow to St. Petersburg when it went down. and all 10 people on board were killed. Social media channels linked to the Wagner Group say the plane was shot down by Russian air defenses, and they confirm Prigozhin's death. When the mutiny happened earlier this summer, Russian President Putin denounced it as treason, and he promised to avenge it. But then the charges against Prigozhin were dropped, and some experts believe the whole revolt was staged. But there's been no official confirmation one way or another on that. Flash forward 2 months, and emergency crews and investigators are now searching the scene of the deadly plane crash. It's not expected to have any impact on Russia's war in Ukraine, since Prigozhin's troops already pulled back from the frontline action after fighting in some of the bloodiest battles of the war. Back in the U.S., President Biden says he was not surprised by news of Prigozhin's possible death. He also said, quote, "There's not much that happens in Russia that Putin's not behind." India is celebrating a triumph on the surface of the moon. This week, it became the first country to land a spacecraft near the moon's south pole in one piece. Scientists believe the uncharted territory could hold vital reserves of frozen water that could help power future missions to the moon and beyond. There's a moon rover on board India's spacecraft that's going to conduct experiments on the moon for another 2 weeks. And next, India says the goal is to try a manned mission. 2 American companies are also planning to put landers on the moon by the end of this year, one of them at the South Pole. Then in the coming years, NASA plans to land astronauts at the South Pole, where they're hoping to be able to take advantage of the frozen water. More news is still coming up, but first, a quick break to thank our sponsor, AG1. AG1 is a foundational nutrition supplement that can replace your multivitamin and probiotic and really support whole body health. I had heard about AG1 before, but I can tell you that after actually trying it and making it part of my everyday, it has lived up to the hype. I drink AG1 in the morning, usually as I'm getting my toddler breakfast or starting my workday, before I've eaten anything else. And I notice I really do reach for my tea or coffee less often, or at least I forget about it for a while, because drinking AG1 makes me feel energized and ready to take on the day. I also appreciate that it's easy to put in a to-go cup on especially busy days, and that it's just this one simple drinkable habit. 1 scoop of AG1 mixed with water, that's it. It's one of the easiest habits I've started since it makes me feel good. If you are looking for a simpler, effective investment for your health, try AG1 and get 5 free AG1 travel packs and a free 1-year supply of vitamin D with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/newsworthy. That's drinkag1.com/newsworthy. Check it out. The brutal heat wave that's been hanging over Texas for most of the summer has expanded and gotten even worse. Triple-digit temperatures have buckled roads, damaged water pipes, closed schools and businesses, and led to a spike in emergency room visits, especially in Texas, since the heat has lasted for so long now. This week, the National Weather Service's most severe heat alert spanned more than 1,100 miles from the Gulf Coast to central Minnesota. And across the plains, Midwest, and South, extreme heat is expected to last at least through the end of the week, with temperatures more than 20 degrees above normal, even for late August. In fact, parts of the south-central U.S. could see temperatures never before recorded. Today, more of the southeast is expected to be dealing with this scorching heat too, as well as the Ohio Valley. And overall, this is expected to be the hottest Northern Hemisphere summer in history. A scientific and technological breakthrough is now letting a woman speak for the first time in nearly 20 years. Ann Johnson had a paralyzing stroke back in 2005, but she says a new experiment made her, quote, "feel like I was a whole person again." Implanted electrodes decoded her brain signals as she silently tried to say sentences. And then technology converted Johnson's brain signals into written and vocalized language, and it allowed an avatar on a computer screen to speak the words and display expressions. Johnson chose the avatar to be a face resembling hers, and researchers used footage of her wedding toast to develop the avatar's voice. The experiment did not get everything right, only about half of what she was trying to say, but the system is still much faster and more accurate than previous technologies that attempted similar feats. And now experts in neuroscience and artificial intelligence are hoping to advance the tech even more. Experts believe federally approved wireless versions of this tech might be available within the next decade. This week, Hollywood studios took the unusual step of going public with the latest offer they made to screenwriters 113 days into the strike. But the writers' union told members to keep picketing since it did not address all of their concerns. The latest offer would have been a 3-year contract with a combined 13% pay hike, an increase in residual payments, a guaranteed 10-week minimum work period, and a promise that writers will, quote, not be disadvantaged if any part of a script ends up being written by artificial intelligence. But the union says the offer, quote, failed to sufficiently protect writers from the existential threats that caused us to strike in the first place. So with that, the strike continues. Apparently, all you need to do is hum a tune, and YouTube will be able to pick up the melody and find you the actual song. Or at least that's the hope. YouTube is testing the feature out right now, so some people who use the Android version of the app may have this. If you do have access to the experiment, you can go to the new song search feature and hum or sing for 3 or more seconds. Then YouTube should give you videos that feature that song, whether that be the official music video or some other user-generated content. There are other music recognition apps out there that can already identify songs by someone singing or humming them, like SoundHound. But if this experiment works, the feature would go out to a lot more people, since YouTube is already a popular place for people to look up songs. Well, that's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Thing to Know Thursday. But first, this episode is brought to you by Honeylove. Whether you're preparing for a wedding or other event, or just want to feel great in your everyday, Honeylove has the shapewear and beyond for you. And I'm speaking from personal experience. I have the best-selling Superpower shapewear from Honeylove, and I am so impressed by the fit and the effectiveness of this shapewear. Honeylove's targeted compression technology actually distinguishes between areas where you want more support and the areas you need less compression. In fact, our executive producer, Emily, has worn Honeylove even longer than me, and she said it best. Instead of just flattening you like some shapewear, Honeylove pulls in the waist without suffocating the rest of you. That's why she chose it for her wedding day, and we both choose Honeylove from now on. And by the way, I'm also a huge fan now of Honeylove's leggings. The Legging 2.0 are my new go-to for working out, running errands, working from home, travel, and more. They give this amazing, smooth, and sleek look, and they're really comfortable. So treat yourself to the best shapewear and leggings on the market and save 20% off at honeylove.com/newsworthy. Use our exclusive link to get 20% off honeylove.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to Thing to Know Thursday. Well, today, August 24th, is apparently America's sickest day, or at least the day when the most Americans say they're not well enough to work. The finding comes from a 5-year study done by a firm that helps companies manage employee absences and medical leaves. About 300 businesses with more than 10,000 employees took part in this study, which found an average of about 1% of those employees out sick on August 24th. And that's a higher percentage than any other day of the year. The study found the second sickest day of the year is February 13th, which could be aligned with the Super Bowl, or of course, actual sicknesses. The employees at least say there are real ailments keeping them home, most commonly the stomach bug, COVID-19, stress, and anxiety. Well, thank you so much for listening today. We will catch you up on more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.